Previously on The Fanboys.
I would love for him to get a Gatorade shower. He'd be a wet cooter.
Tabor's still a big one.
Yeah.
At Tabor.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, Tabor's a team that has been rough.
But if they win this game, they have a legitimate shot to be in the Big 12 championship game.
The NBA is the worst professional sports right now there is. And really, I contemplated putting this on there because I was like, is A&M even a rival? Because when it's just the history of you kicking one team's ass repeatedly. As a fan, I am being denied the right to watch the team that I root for.
They were put in a better position to call a better game, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes sense.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's going to be DeMarcus Lawrence's bank account after this season. And Jake, it is 10:29 p.m. on a Wednesday night, October 3rd.
So 10:28 and 10:29, and OU still.
Whoa. This Texas defense being able to contain and hold Kyler Murray. Am I saying to 14 points? No. Am I saying to 28 points? Probably not. They're probably going to get up there, maybe 35 points. And welcome to the Fanboys. We are the fans talking as fans for you, the fans, and we are on to episode 7. Jake, it's been a great ride already, and we've got a lot more to come. Of course, we're going to start the show off with some SC football. They finally beat Tabor. I'm going to talk a little bit about Temple-Belton game, and then Jake's going to talk about the Dallas Stars start to their NHL season, and of course our college takeaway and our NFL takeaway. No shout-outs today, but we look forward to having anybody comment and respond to what we have to say on this episode. And Jake, let's get this thing started. And SC, Jake, I mean, wow, what a game and what a season that they're having. You know, it was starting to look a little shaky there with the 2-game loss. Sterling and McPherson back-to-back weeks. And then
mainly McPherson.
Yeah, mainly McPherson was looking, a little troublesome. But back-to-back wins, Bethany, Avila, and Tabor at Tabor, something that the Southwestern Mound Builders have not been able to do in recent years, especially at Tabor. This was a big one, and I think not only was it big for KCAC standings-wise, but it was just big in terms of confidence and getting that monkey off your back.
And just continuing to change the culture. You want a winning culture, and that's something we're seeing Texas have to do right now, and we're starting to see SC do it as well, and it's exciting. I mean, that's a big win, even though this Tabor team isn't quite what Tabor has been in the past, and I'm pretty sure even the guys on the football team would agree with that. I do think it's clear that that is a game that in past years, even the team last year that was much improved, they would have lost to the same Tabor team on the road just because that is just the type of game that they were losing. And for them to go out there and win that is just huge.
Yeah, and I think with Austin Early being able to play as shitty of a game that he actually did, 8 of 21, 92 yards and 2 interceptions, and then to still be able to come on top in somewhat of a dominating fashion nonetheless, I think that speaks volumes into overcoming adversity.
Yeah, no, I mean, Austin Early's a guy who we're starting to see very consistent play from, and, this is a guy that really is the first true quarterback we've seen just with a really good arm at SC and since I've been watching them. And so, I mean, guys like Christian Gordon were great leaders and could run the ball well, but they just could never get consistency in the passing game. And this was a game where when you look at the box score, you think, wow, Austin Early played bad. But for the offense to find enough success on the road and the defense to really show out in this game, it's a big win. That's a culture-changing type of win, especially coming off the back of a big win against Avila.
Yes.
This is a game where a lot of programs would just let up, but the Builders refused to, and that's huge.
Yeah, Jake, and avoiding that kind of letdown that you and I were talking about, beating the teams that we're supposed to beat, and now you're on to Bethel at home, and you've got to win that game. And now, Jake, with as well as Southwestern's playing, not to overlook Bethel because you can't do that or else you're going to lose, but the Ottawa game. And, well, technically, I guess Southwestern has a bye because they don't play until the 20th of October. So they'll be on a bye this week. But you got Bethel and then Ottawa on the 27th. That's not something you want to just look for or, like, jump forward to because you still have Bethel in front of you. But that's shaping up to be a pretty important game at the late end of October.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of like we've said each week. With this team, it's kind of hard not to be on a week-to-week basis right now.
You have to be, yeah.
They're definitely have been inconsistent. I mean, they started the year on a win streak, then they went on the losing to Sterling was one thing, but the loss to McPherson was definitely the really disappointing loss. And so moving forward, I mean, they're still a team. They can definitely lose to some bad teams that they're playing at their worst, but they can definitely beat some really good teams when they're playing at their best. And you don't want to overlook anyone. They're going to have to show out and play with their A game every week to beat even the lower teams because I think they're a team that has a really low floor but a pretty high ceiling.
Yeah, and Jake, the defense is kind of something that is maybe one of those things that you definitely kind of don't know what you're going to get out of them. I mean, last week against Tabor, you allow 7 points, and then Avila the week before, it's 49, and then Bethany the week before that, it's 7, and then McPherson the week before that is 45. It's just so up and down, and it's so inconsistent that I think that's why you can't necessarily just settle down, sit tight, and just be like, all right, this should be a win. This is going to be a great game. This is going to be a breeze. I don't think you can really go into any game thinking that way with the way the defense has played as inconsistently as they have.
Yeah, no, I mean, the McPherson game was a big letdown by the defense. Sterling, parts of that game, they just looked like they couldn't buy a stop. The defense especially is really week to week. Right now, the offense has really been rolling pretty well.
Been fairly
consistently since Early took over. And so, it's going to be, can this defense keep it going consistently, especially when they get into that Kansas Wesleyan game? The defense is going to have to show out for that one, or Kansas Wesleyan is one of those teams that could just blow you out in the first quarter.
Yeah, Jake, and I want to move on. That is going to be it for our SC football talk, and Tuck Faber. I will end it off on that note. I'm going to move on to what was last week was rivalry week. Big time games going on around, especially the kind of the Texas area was mostly, but of course SC and Tabor big rivals there. Temple Belton is kind of what I want to touch base on, and I'm going to have this little segment, and Jake's going to have his little segment here in the intro. But yeah. Temple Belton, if you're not familiar with the rivalry, Belton High School was my alma mater, and Temple is just inter-county, city right next to Belton, and it is an extremely important and big rivalry in the area that had been discontinued because of different class sizes and different district play for the past, I don't know how long. I think it was 5 years, maybe 6. It was I know I was in high school, and it was like the last year they had done the Temple Belton game, and then it had gotten discontinued. But they brought it back. They are now both in the same class, in the same district even, so it makes it that much more important that they're even in the same district, and we're able to put this game back on. Temple Belton, for the first time playing in about 6 years, went into triple overtime, and what a game it was. I got to catch the entire second half on my way back from after calling my game, and Temple Belton triple overtime. I think it was like 58-55 I think that's the right score.
Yeah, that's the right score.
Yeah, and so, Belton did lose, but I can't be mad because half of the Temple roster, I used to work at a Boys and Girls Club of America type of organization whenever I was in high school and kind of getting into the college. And half of those kids now are grown up or have growed up to playing in the high school level, and they're like half the Temple roster were those kids that I would kind of watch and play with and all that stuff. And so they got to win, and actually one of the kids I was really good friends with, he got the game-winning touchdown in triple overtime. So it's like a thing I can't even be mad at. I'm just proud of all the kids at Ralph Wilson that played well, and I'm proud of Belton. And I was talking to some Temple friends of mine, and the fact that the game is just back, just in general, the game being back is so important to the community because it brings really two towns, yes, as rivals, but it brings them together as one in one stadium, and it's kind of a respect thing. But yeah, definitely a fun time, and both towns, both cities are extremely glad that game is back in Texas high school football.
Yeah, no, I've been to a couple of those games, and I mean it's a college-like atmosphere. It's always electric.
Yeah, it was
So
also
that-
the Texas State Network or Texas Sport Network Game of the Week of the whole state of Texas. That was Game of the Week.
Yeah, and I mean it should be pretty much every year because it's awesome. Half the stadium's blue, half the stadium's red. It's a great. I mean, I've traveled for that game to go watch it. I did last year and went and saw it, and so it's always a really fun game to go see.
Yeah, Jake, and it didn't disappoint this year either.
No, triple overtime. I mean, and I don't know if you heard how they got into overtime, but Belton was who had missed a couple field goals in that game, kicked a 51-yard field goal to force the overtime, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and move. Unless you have anything else to say on
No,
that
Jake,
game,
you go ahead and take on the Stars.
Yeah, I mean, some people probably don't care about hockey, but I don't really care if they don't care about hockey. I really like the NHL, and luckily it's helped fill a void for me when the NBA is going because the NBA is trash. And so I've been, last year I really pretty much watched almost every game from the Stars from December on, and I've gotten pretty attached to the team, and I mean, even though there's 82 games, I like watching every game I can, and I've watched pretty much all of their 3 games so far. They started out 2-0. They actually dropped their first game last night, but they're under new head coach Jim Montgomery, and man, they play an exciting brand of hockey right now. And if anyone here, listening in, hasn't really watched hockey, I suggest just giving it a try. I think it's a super exciting sport to watch, and I'm going to kind of just keep posted on how the Stars are doing. But if you're from the Dallas area or from the Texas area, I definitely suggest watching the Stars this year. They're really exciting so far. They beat Winnipeg in the second game, which was on Saturday. It actually happened about 2 hours after the Texas game, and Winnipeg was a team they basically hadn't beaten about 2 years, and they play them like 4 times a year. And even though the Stars were a pretty good team last year, but they smoked them this year 5-1, and they're looking good early. They got Tyler Seguin as a guy. I'm sure you've heard of him. He played at the Bruins, won a Stanley Cup at the Bruins. He's been on the Stars the last couple of years. He just signed an 8-year extension. He's electric, and I'm looking for the Stars team to do some big things this year. I love the brand of hockey they're playing.
Yeah, well, Jake, they started off really well last year, and they had a good run, and then really that last 15 games of the season really bit them in the ass.
It was March, and the funny thing is I went to the first game. I went to about 9 Stars games last year, and that included the first game, and I think it was the month of March. It might have been like May. I think it was May. And they won the first game of that month, and then I went to the first and the last game of that month. The last game was the last game of the year, and they won both of those games. They lost every game in between those.
Right. I mean, it was a terrible stretch of games for the Dallas Stars, and that's definitely
it was the worst
opposite.
in franchise history. And it was a good team, but where they really struggle is they got to find some consistent scoring outside of their stacked first line of Alexander Radulov, who's one of my favorite players, and Jamie Benn, who's the captain, and then, of course, Tyler Seguin, and then John Kleinberg's back there on defense. He's a guy who almost won Defensive Player of the Year last year. So they just got to find some – they still are working on that, but I think they're going to find it as this year goes on. They got a good goalkeeper, which is something they lacked a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. This is a team who I think the expectation is to make the playoffs and should be to win a round in the playoffs. I definitely think they have the talent to do it this year, and I'm really excited to watch this team as they continue on throughout the year.
Yeah, and the Washington Capitals, defending champs, are shit pumping everything that they see in their side as well. So it looks to be a pretty.
And even when they lose, they're still scoring like 8 goals.
Yeah, it's an exciting brand of hockey they play up there in the nation's capital. And Jake, is there a better slate of names in any sport than in hockey? Can you name better names, like players' names, in any sport?
No. I mean, you have so many different countries.
Yeah, you might
NHL
get like a. Yeah, you get like.
I mean, Alexander Radulov is an awesome name.
A Radulov. I mean, that sounds like some type of Thor movie type shit, like Ragnarok. Yeah. I mean, that shit is.
He's the dude I got. I have his jersey. I mean, I love. He is fun to watch, and I mean, hockey isn't a soft sport like the like even the NFL is now. I mean, they promote fighting. you go to a game, there's this nasty fight in the second game of the Stars where, I mean, there was just blood all over the ice. It's awesome. It's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see that white ice turn into red ice, and that's what you get to see.
After the fight, they just go, "Hey, man, good fight there. Sorry there, mate. Let's go get some
Sure.
maple syrup and let's go get back on the ice rink and try to score some goals there, eh?"
Yeah, don't you know? And then we can go afterwards and go get some burrs and some pints and just have a grand old time at the Opry. I think that turned into Irish pretty quickly there for me.
That definitely did. You definitely turned into Conor McGregor.
Hey, that's
Spoiler alert,
you
we're
know.
talking
Hey,
about that later.
yeah. Wait a minute. And so, but Jake, let's go to college and NFL takeaways before we get into our talking points. And Jake, I'm going to go ahead and take off on the college. And congratulations to Texas A&M. You're ranked again, and all Texas fans. That's cute. Yeah, we don't really care, and congratulations, I guess. But in all seriousness, Texas can't really talk that much shit. I mean, we've been in the shithole for so long now. And
We've been in what A&M has been in, like,
their
entire existence, other than, like,
the last
1932 when they won a title.
Right. And but no, in all seriousness, it's kind of cool to have, all these teams, Oklahoma, A&M, Texas, all these teams ranked in the area. TCU, I don't think they're ranked anymore. But, Texas fans are not impressed with your 22 ranking now that we're number 9. And Texas is back, baby.
And actually deserves number 9. That's
Texas the thing that blows my mind.
High, but, this is the first time we've been able to say in a long time, hey, Texas is ranked this high, and they deserve to be.
They deserve to be, and you just got to think, is Maryland possibly a playoff team?
Yeah, no. I still can't go there.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to throw the take
show
out
up for the first game of the year, but I don't really care about that game right now. I mean,
can you imagine, like, Jake, remember how pissed we were? Remember how pissed we were about the Maryland game? That shit, we were livid, and we were done. We had pretty much given up on the season at that point.
Yeah, I just said it was going to be exactly like last year. I still stand by. They'll probably lose a game or two, but that doesn't change the fact that this season has already been unbelievable. Beating OU in a game that had College Game Day and where OU fought back, tied the game, and the offense fought through that adversity, driving it down. Dicker the kicker, sealing the deal. As upset as I was and as nervous as I was when they gave up the 21-point lead, for the offense to go out there and then finish the game like that, that's something they would have lost that game last year if they were in that scenario. They would have lost that game for the past decade. That, to me, is a change of culture, and that is exactly what Tom Herman is trying to do with this program.
Yeah, Jake, and we were talking earlier, me and a guy that works here at the radio station with me, and Jake, Dicker the kicker, he will probably, if he never makes another kick in his Texas career, will always forever be cemented as a Texas legend. I mean,
for sure.
This guy doesn't have to do anything else in his college career. He's probably going to pass every class he ever takes. He's going to get whatever chick he ever wants. He's going to go to 6th Street and get whatever drink anybody wants to buy him. This kid is set for life in the city of Austin for the next 4 years.
Yeah, you have to be excited. As silly as it sounds, we've seen some bad kickers. We've seen some great kickers. It's always nice to have a good kicker, especially in college where
kickers are so rare.
The kicking game can be so volatile, and so
and it's so shaky. It's so off and on.
All jokes aside, it's great. His name is Dicker. First of all, we get to enjoy this for 4 years, having a guy named Dicker who's a kicker.
Yeah,
that's phenomenal.
No, and it really doesn't get better than that, especially if he wins continual games against OU, game-winning kicks, or whatever game it is. If he continues to make game-winning kicks, he's going to be probably up there with Justin Tucker as the best Texas Longhorn kicker of all time.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And
but,
now to me, the question for Texas is, okay, you have done something no one saw coming with this run. Now can you beat the teams you're supposed to beat? They got Baylor this upcoming week. Baylor's
a sneaky 4-2. A sneaky 4-2.
A sneaky 4-2. You're coming off a very emotional win. Can you take care of them at home? And, I don't care about scores. Just care about wins. And so can you win this game at home? I'm not going to be the fan who complains if we don't win by 40. All I care about is wins. The K-State game was ugly, and then they beat OU the next week. And so my deal is, can you take care of this Baylor team at home and then move forward to the next week? Because they still have some tough games left. Oklahoma State, even though they've been kind of struggling, Oklahoma State's still going to be a tough contest. West Virginia, right now, if you're Texas, really the only team that technically should probably beat you from this point on is West Virginia. So you should be in the Big 12 championship. That should be the expectation in the player's mind right now.
What's
because
crazy,
you have
Jake,
to win over Oklahoma. And Oklahoma State and all these other teams have 2 or 3 losses.
Yeah. And what's crazy, Jake, is you can meet up with Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship game. They're not out of it.
Right.
Both teams beat West Virginia, and then you see them again in the Big 12 championship game, and that decides who's going to the playoffs. It's just it's that exciting of a scenario for the Big 12 right now. And the Big 12's got to be pretty happy right now with the way they're going about things because, Jake, I know you're about to get into this, but, SEC's right there, of course, at the top. And then right there, the second best conference, which definitely helps you in the playoff terms of things, of getting into the playoffs, strength of schedule, all that stuff. Big 12 is probably right there at number 2.
Yeah, and that's mainly just because the other conferences are so weak right now.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 is pitiful. The ACC is really the Pac-12 is the most pitiful of them all. And then the ACC is the second most. And the only reason they're not the most pitiful is just because they have Clemson. And then you have the Big Ten, which has been a huge disappointment. We kind of hyped up the Big Ten at the start of the year. They have not looked very good.
Yeah.
Ohio State very
not
well
really
should have lost to TCU if TCU didn't shoot themselves in the foot repeatedly.
Yeah, and Jake, I agree with you. I think the only one coming out of is Ohio State of the Big Ten, and they're the only ones that has a possible chance. And honestly, they should have lost to Penn State, but they have the worst coaching decision, worse than Jason Garrett punting it in overtime. James Franklin, that was the worst coaching decision you could have possibly made, and that possible game against Ohio State in prime time at home, and you choose to do that. Geez Louise, you don't deserve to win.
There's one other coaching decision that was probably the worst in Penn State history, but that was
off the field.
Definitely number 2 or maybe number 1. It depends what you consider worse, and I'm not going to name that event, but I think we all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, the worst coaching decision was off the field. On the field, this is by far the worst coaching decision.
Oh yeah, no, that was 4th and 5. You have a quarterback who you've been raving about, and you just run it up the middle on 4th and 5, and I don't even think it got a yard. That was pitiful. The Big Ten has not been very good. I think the Big 12 is second best conference right now, and this is one of those years where I will actually say the SEC is the best conference right now, and it's
it's pretty evident. It's not
pretty
really
evident.
Yeah, it's not that close of a to me. And still Georgia, yes, but I still don't think Georgia is a great number 2. I think, honestly, LSU is going to win that game. Coming off of a loss to Florida in a game of which they gave to Florida, they basically handed the ball off to Florida to get the game-winning score. And I really do think LSU at home is going to take down Georgia.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially being at home. That loss to Florida, that was pretty disappointing for LSU.
And I don't think it's a season ender. I don't think it's a season ender for LSU. I really don't.
I don't think so.
You're in the
Florida's
SEC.
Ranked. It was in Florida.
Right.
But that being said, they're in that dreaded SEC West, and
but also being in that West helps you if you win big games like you do against Georgia and stuff. That puts you up further in the rankings because you have such a tough schedule.
Yeah, for sure. And for LSU, it's a win, and you still have a shot at the playoff game, and lose, and hope to get into like a New Year's Six bowl. I still think LSU's a good team, but that game, if they lose that game, they're out of the playoff for sure. So that's a big time football game coming up, and that's one to definitely keep an eye on because that should be a fun game.
But yeah, Jake, and I'm not big on the SEC. I never have been. I've never really liked the teams. But the only team that I continually root for in the SEC year after year, no matter how bad or good they are, I always like LSU. I don't know what it is. It might be the colors. It might be the fact that they mark every 5-yard line. It might just be Death Valley.
Yeah, I think it's a combination.
I don't know what it is, but they're always just a team to watch, and that I've always enjoyed watching, regardless of the talent on the field.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky was the other team I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. They look decent. And then I watched that game Saturday, and that was one of the worst football games I've watched in my entire life. And that answered all the questions I needed to have answered. And the college football landscape right now is so weird because I just feel like it's Alabama in a class of their own, and then just everyone else.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to.
I would not want to meet Oklahoma again in a Big 12 championship because I never want to see Kyler Murray again unless he's playing baseball.
Yeah, he's
so fast.
He's scary. He's scary to go against, and but yeah, Jake, we could talk more and more about that and never get off the subject, and then we'll be 2 hours into the show. So we're gonna move on to our NFL takeaway, and Jake.
Oh yeah, we went into my takeaway.
Yeah, that was your takeaway.
Yeah. My bad.
Yeah, it was a smooth transition, I thought, and then you kind of ruined it with
it was
that,
so smooth. I didn't even realize.
Right.
That's like when you're on a date and you surprise yourself with the girl, and you're just like, "Whoa, I did that."
Whoa, I actually got to second base. That's incredible. I just accidentally brushed past your boob, but hey, it counts.
I mean, you slapped the shit out of me, but hey, it's okay.
Yeah, it's
actually, Me Too movement. That's a very bad idea. You could end up in prison.
Yeah, don't accidentally brush boobs.
Don't take our advice, please.
So my NFL takeaway is that the NFC least is the division winner of the NFC East is going to be under 500. That's my takeaway. That's my hot take, and I don't even think it's that hot of a take. In fact, it might be a cool take because I don't think it's that far-fetched to see. I see a 7-9 team coming out of that division and winning that division of the NFC least. And if it's the Cowboys, it's the Cowboys. If it's the Eagles, it could be the Redskins. Hell, at this point, it could be the fucking Giants. I don't know. I really don't know who's coming out as a winner.
Be the Eagles.
It'll probably be the Eagles, but I do think
they're the most talented team.
Yeah, the most talented of the shittiest division, and they're going to be 7-9, and whoever wins it is going to be 7-9, and they're not going to have a Seattle Seahawks beast mode against the New Orleans Saints, which was the last time to be under 500 and make the playoffs, was beating the defending Super Bowl champs in Seattle. But the fact that they get to host a home playoff game, whoever wins this division is a fucking joke.
Yeah, the NFC East just continues its weird trend of when you expect it to be really bad, it's like the best division in football. And then you're like, oh, this division should be good this year. Then it just looks bad. And, I mean, the Eagles are lucky to be 2-3. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, they almost lost to Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean,
who's 1-4.
They could very well be 0-5. I mean, they are what they are. They're 2-3, but they definitely have some big issues. Their offensive line has not been playing to the standard that they did last year whatsoever. We'll go over Dallas's issues later. Washington, I mean, it's an Alex Smith-led team. They're not terrible on offense, but they're not great. They're very inconsistent. And the Giants are, I mean, they're just a disaster. They punch kicking nets. They punch benches.
That
team
so
is just
bad.
An implosion waiting.
Yeah, well, the fact that Odell Beckham's stuck on that team for the next, 6 years or whatever his fucking contract was, that team's going to implode on itself. They might trade him before his contract is up. I mean,
I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Dude, he's such a distraction, and he just makes life so much worse for an already bad quarterback at the end of his career.
I wouldn't want him on the Cowboys.
I think Eli's career has been fine. Yeah, I think Eli's career has been great. It might even be arguably a Hall of Fame career. However, with Odell on that team, it just makes everybody around you so much worse. He's not the type of guy that's a good player and makes everybody around him better. No, he's the kind of guy that's a great player, and he makes everybody around him, he's toxic to that entire team.
Yeah, and then, they draft Saquon Barkley, and everyone's like, oh, their running game's fixed. Nope. Their running game's still bad. I mean, and even the games where they've had a decent average, it's just because Barkley popped one big run. I mean, they
like
do
against
not
Jacksonville.
have a consistent running game at all. And it's because their offensive line's bad. And I said it right after they drafted him. I said, okay, cool. You're still going to suck at running the ball because, I mean, Barkley is an amazing talent, but it doesn't matter until they fix what they have up front. And then they're going to be quarterback searching now. I mean, Eli's career is essentially over. And they don't have anyone in waiting.
And the
so-
only quarterback that's coming out of this year's draft, or coming into this year's draft, I should say, is the Mizzou guy, the guy
What
at
about
Missouri.
the Oregon guy? Is he?
I guess he's coming. I haven't really heard anything. I don't pay attention to the Pac-12 like whatsoever, so I
The
really
Oregon
wouldn't
QB
know.
is pretty impressive. I watched him play against Stanford, and I can't remember who else, but he's real. And he's not your typical Oregon quarterback. He actually looks like a guy who could be good in the pros.
Yeah. But the Mizzou guy is probably going to be a top 10 pick maybe. And that's I don't really know this year. Last year
This
we
is
knew
a QB weak class. Very weak.
and we knew the quarterbacks coming in last year. We knew the Lamar Jackson, we knew the Josh Rosen, we knew Josh Allen, we knew
Baker
Darnold,
Mayfield.
we knew Mayfield, we knew those guys. I know the Missouri guy, and then you just mentioned the Oregon guy, and those are really the only two guys that I know. Is Jake
Yeah, and I can't
Browning
even
supposed to
think
do
of his name.
anything at the next level?
Yeah, I mean, the Mizzou guy, Drew Lock, I
Yeah.
think that's his name.
Yeah,
He would not be a top 10 pick in a normal draft.
Yeah,
But
they're
because-
going to stretch it.
Because teams stretch for QBs. I mean, there was guys last year who were picked in the first round in a QB-heavy class that shouldn't have been. Like, in my opinion, Lamar Jackson. I mean, I don't think he's a NFL caliber passing quarterback. So, I mean, teams stretch. I mean, Johnny Manziel and Tim Tebow were drafted in the first round.
Yep.
It's insane how far teams stretch for quarterbacks.
Brandon Weeden,
Yeah.
first round pick.
He was like 40 too.
Yeah. Well, Jake, and one quarterback that was not stretched on, some people may have thought so in the draft when the Chiefs traded up to get him, was Pat Mahomes. And I know you've got a takeaway for the Chiefs. They look pretty for real.
Yeah, I think that this is not. People are kind of stuck on, well, the Chiefs always start out good, then they fall off. This is a very different Chiefs team. I mean, their defense definitely has not been consistent, but they've put together a couple good weeks now. And, I mean, I think the Chiefs are on a pedestal alone in the AFC. I mean, of course, you have the Patriots, but I just don't think this Patriots team is – they're going to win their division. They're going to be in the playoffs. Nothing crazy is going to happen because their division sucks.
Yeah.
But
And
to
they're
me,
still
and we'll see
decently
this week,
a good team.
But I got the Chiefs in New England winning by about 17. I think
Three-score
Kansas City – yeah, I think Kansas City's a lot better team, and I may look stupid next week, but I like this Kansas City team. I think they're going to be hard to stop. I mean, Mahomes at this point, he has not had even against Jacksonville. People are like, "Oh, he threw 2 picks." It's like, yeah, but
They won 40-7 or whatever the fuck
they
it
still
was.
scored a bunch of points, and he still threw for a bunch of yards. He still ran for a touchdown. I mean, if that's going to be the worst possible game you get out of your quarterback, I think you're okay with that if you're Kansas
Sign me
City.
up. Sign me up for a 40 or whatever point game it was when they beat Jacksonville. I'll take that as my quarterback's worst performance. Thank you.
You would consider Jacksonville what, top 3 in the AFC,
Well,
right?
well, as a team, yes. Their defense is number 1 in the league.
Well, yeah, their defense, but as a team, they're top 3 in the AFC. And the Chiefs just wiped the floor with them. And you would have to throw the Patriots in the top 3 just because they're the Patriots. And I think the Chiefs are going to wipe the floor with them this week on the road.
Back-to-back weeks at the AFC Championship game for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Jacksonville Jaguars last week and New England this week.
Yeah, exactly. And if that's the case, then they are clearly by far the best team in the AFC. And I don't think that's going to change. I mean, they could very well find a way to somehow blow it in the playoffs because that's what they've done in the past. But I think this team is at least AFC Championship bound, and they should be Super Bowl bound if they're able to just not have catastrophic injuries and, any like Mahomes goes down or anything crazy like that. If they stay healthy, to me, they are by far the favorites in the AFC.
Yeah, Jake, and now that our takeaways have been taken away and they're gone and they are in the internet sphere forever, let's move on to a fan favorite. We've got many compliments on this segment, and we're bringing it back. It's our second reoccurring segment. First was Overreaction Week, but that's not really a segment. That's just a thing. Our first actual game, Good or Not. Jake, it's back, and we are ready to go for round 2 of Good and Not. I obviously won week 1. That was a pretty obvious
that's
assumption.
debatable. I mean, that
I don't
was
think
not
it's debatable.
decided, but
No, it was decided by the fans. I put a poll up that you didn't know about. I won.
wow, yeah, that may. Oh, okay, so we're doing one of those votes. All right, that's a very political move by you.
Well, I did win, and it was a pretty outstanding amount of votes, considering the only one voting was me. All right. Well, Jake, I'm going to let you go first this time. I went first last time, so I will let you go first this time. Hit me with your best shot.
All right, so we're going to start out, and I think you'll know where I'm going with this one right away. But good or not, EA Sports, the game developing studio.
Yeah, that's a good one, Jake. It's not necessarily their fault for NCAA football not coming back, and I think that's going to be the big knock on a lot of people hearing this. Is going to be like, yeah, if they brought NCAA back, then yeah, duh, they'd be good. I'm going to go with good anyway. I like EA Sports. I think Madden's good, and I like their other games. They don't just come out with sports games too. They have other games that they come out with. I like EA Sports. I'm going to say good.
Okay, so yeah, you're all for not having NCAA football games.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I saw that one coming, but it's not their fault. It's the NCAA's fault.
No,
so.
I actually agree with you, and I just had to set up where there's a trap either way.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Because if you said no because of NCAA, I would have said, oh, so you don't like Madden.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Jake. And all right, my first good or not, the Cincinnati Bengals of 2018. They're 4-1.
They're good. They're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs, but I mean, they're a good team. I think they're a good team, so I'm going to go with good. But they're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs because they have Marvin Lewis. They're kind of like a Dallas Cowboys of the AFC.
Hey.
Not Dallas Cowboys this year, but Dallas Cowboys teams we've seen in the past 5 years or so.
General, yeah.
I mean, they're talented. They're pretty fun to watch, honestly. I think they're doing a lot of good things, and I think even if they get in a wild card round, they could win a wild card round, but they won't get past the divisional round by some crazy mark. I mean, I was talking about the AFC just a little bit ago, and I just completely forgot about the Bengals because to me, they're not good once you get into the playoffs, but until proven otherwise. But I would say good because you don't have to be a good team. You can be a good team and not go to the AFC Championship, especially the way the NFL is designed, not like the NBA. You can be a good team. I mean, the Cowboys 2 years ago when they went 13-3 but lost to the Packers, that was a good team. They just failed in the playoffs. It happens.
When it's a one-game
playoff, it happens.
Yep.
All right, so my next one, Tanner, and I got to ask you a question before this. Do you hate the roughing the passer rule and the call they made on Xavier Woods this Sunday?
Yeah, I mean the helmet to helmet thing and stuff.
Okay, so good or not, the NFL.
It's good. I'll never say the NFL's bad. I'll never say football or NFL's bad. I mean, it's good. I mean, yeah, the rules suck sometimes, and the officiating has been extremely bad. And I was actually watching something on, it wasn't SportsCenter, it was like NFL Live or something like that. It was on ESPN, and they were talking about the officiating and how bad it's been. And I think they made a really good point, actually. It was the fact of there's too many rules. There's too many things that these referees are having to keep an eye on that they're missing the basic. They're missing the illegal formation calls. They're missing false starts. They're missing very elementary type things that they haven't really missed in the past, that have been criticized in the past, but they never missed those calls. This year, with all the new rules and if it's a catch or not, and helmet to helmet, and unsportsmanlike conduct, and all that shit that they're worried about, it's distracting them from actually making good calls. And I actually really like the take. I thought it was a good take.
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, and I thought it was a pretty different kind of view on it. Is that they're so overwhelmed right now that they're just missing the most basic elementary ones, which makes their job that much more noticeable, and that they're doing that worse of a job. But yes, Jake, the NFL is good. It's football. I will never say it's not.
All right, yeah. That one wasn't too hard because you could not answer no.
You can't because it's football.
Yeah, you're just screwed. So
all right, Jake. DC movies, good or not?
That's a tough one because 90% of them have been bad.
They've been shitty, yes. Except the Dark Knight trilogy. Which makes it almost amazing.
I mean, I'm going to say good just because that the Dark Knight trilogy is probably my favorite trilogy of all time.
Ooh.
I mean, every single one of those is amazing. And Batman Begins, which is probably the one that's forgotten about over all of them, is amazing after you watch the third one because the way they kind of came full circle.
Right.
There's so much that goes into that. It's kind of a different, darker side of Batman that's more really true to his actual origin story than what you have seen in the other renditions of Batman. And I mean, that literally makes DC movies good, but I do want to have a little asterisk on there. And I just want to say, Suicide Squad was okay, but other than that, Justice League, Batman vs Superman, all those of Wonder Woman was good. That's another one that was good that like elevates to me DC movies to good, but a lot of the DC movies have sucked. It's definitely not Marvel Studios where everything they release is just amazing.
Yeah,
So,
I'm
there definitely is an asterisk on that good,
Yeah.
but I can't say not good when it has arguably my favorite trilogy of all time.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on Batman, the Dark Knight series. Everything else, the Batman vs Superman, and fuck Ben Affleck as Batman. He's the worst Batman there's ever been.
Yeah, that
he's worse than
shouldn't be a
he's
thing.
worse than George Clooney. And I think that Aquaman is going to be, I think that's going to be a pendulum swing for me. I think if Aquaman's really good, because I agree with you with the Wonder Woman and the Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, and Suicide Squad's okay. It's in the middle of the road. It's a perfect 5 out of 10. And but yeah, I would have to agree with you. I disagree with you on the good part. I would have said not, just because there's so many more bad movies than good movies. But the Dark Knight trilogy is basically a perfect 10.
Yeah, in my mind, it's basically putting on like a little checks and balances scale, like you see with the justice system or whatever.
Yeah.
And the good movies are so good that it outweighs those
The
bad,
many bad movies.
Just barely. I mean, if Aquaman's a big stinker, then that could very well just swing
You
it the
big
other way.
stinker. Yeah. You sound like get off my lawn, you big stinker.
But you get the point of what I'm saying.
No,
But
I
I'm
get
going to
it.
go with good. And
Okay,
so now,
all right.
kind of to follow up with you, I'm going to stick in kind of the movie sphere. And for those of you who don't know, Tanner Carlson has a background in acting. And
Oh, God.
I mean, he enjoys acting. And he kind of did it in the past and did some commercials and things like that. And so this is a guy who I think you probably have been a big fan of. And I'm going to ask you, good or not, Kevin Spacey.
You're an asshole. No, not.
Oh,
I can't. I
you didn't
can't.
like House of Cards and
No,
I thought I thought he had a lot of good movies, but hey,
he is a wonderful actor and one of the most horrible human beings on the face of the earth. So I'm going to say not, because what's on the screen is not reality. Reality will trump all. Fuck you for that. And
okay,
technically,
so the actor doesn't like Kevin Spacey. I just want to leave it at that.
Okay, I'm going to call your ass out, because I kind of gave you the idea last week. I told you I was thinking about telling you. Or not last week, but I was thinking about giving you Kevin Spacey the last time we did Good or Not. So fuck
I
you
actually
for
didn't
that.
remember that. That's just actually look at the draw.
Whatever. Yeah, you can say that all you want, but no, not, because the actor. Yes, he has amazing stuff, and House of Cards I'm a huge fan of.
Oh, so he's good then. So
No,
you
he's
like
not.
Child molestation.
No,
Okay.
no, he's not. Not. I am disavowing myself from Kevin Spacey. All right, Jake, my third one. Basketball. Good or not?
Oh, that's easy. You didn't say NBA. You messed up there.
No,
You-
but the NBA you would have just said not. But basketball is part of the NBA. And it's a big part of it.
So I'm going to treat this one like DC. I like high school basketball. I like college basketball. That is a 2-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to go with good, because 66.66666% or whatever it is good. The NBA is trash, but there's enough good to outweigh the bad.
Okay.
So I'm
okay.
going good.
There
because-
are more college teams. There's way more high school teams. There's way more like college basketball athletes than NBA. So I will give you the
all
ratio.
you got to do is have more than one team.
I don't know, dude. Nova's been pretty much owning the NCAA the last couple years.
Nova was a meme 2 years ago about how they choked in the tournament.
Yeah, true.
I mean, college football's been more top-heavy than college basketball.
You're right.
All right, so my next one for you is going to be good or not Walter White from Breaking Bad.
That's pretty good, Jake. You know what? Fuck, I'm gonna say good. Yeah, I'm gonna say good because
All right,
he is.
all right. So you like poisoning children,
Yeah,
killing
yeah.
people, and cooking meth. Okay,
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
know. So
Being a
he
drug
thinks
lord.
Kevin Spacey's a bad actor, and he likes killing people and cooking meth. This is the man I podcast with.
Yeah, no. I love Walter White. I'm sorry, but he's. There was never a moment in that show where I was rooting against Walter White. In all honesty, and even with the kid stuff, everything, I was like, God, this dude is a badass. Like Bryan Cranston, that's one of the best acting performances I've ever seen in my entire life. So yes, I'm going with good. He was doing it for his family, Jake. He's a family man.
That's how it started. I'm gonna say that's how it ended, but
Shh.
we see where you stand. You're glad there's no college football game. You don't
my
like Kevin
God.
Spacey's movies, and you didn't like Breaking Bad, you did like Breaking Bad, and you stand for killing people, cooking meth, and trying to poison little children. So
Yep.
that is Tanner Carlson in a nutshell.
That's me in a nutshell. Jake, and this one, I want you to think about this one, but don't think too hard, okay? But my next
I
one
can't. I'm not capable of that.
is stripes. Good or not? Are stripes good?
What? Can I get a definition?
Can you phone a friend?
Can I get an origin?
Yeah. Stripes. Are they good or not?
I
Stripes.
feel like I'm gonna lose this either way.
Do you like stripes? Do you like any type of stripe?
I don't like this question. It's a trap. Either way, I know where this can go. Either way,
It could go a lot of different. There are stripes everywhere. It could go a lot of ways.
I'm gonna go with yes because it's. I mean, if you're talking about when you get a ton of stripes like the Bumblebee uniforms of Steelers or something, yeah, that's awful. But I mean, if I say I don't like stripes, then that means I don't like the Cowboys helmets. I don't like basically any helmet ever, and I don't like.
See, you're going
90%
strictly
of-
on football and sports wise too. I'm thinking like stripes, like the road stripes. I mean, which way would you know how to drive on the road if there's no stripes?
Yeah, I mean, I have to go with. If I didn't like stripes, I can't imagine a world without stripes. So I don't really want to imagine that. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna go with good.
What Tim Burton movie would you enjoy if there's no stripes? Name
That-
one Tim Burton movie that would not have stripes.
I feel like you were intoxicated or something when you made this one up. That is.
Just half baked.
All right, let's hope your job doesn't listen to this one.
No, yeah, they don't have proof.
Yeah, all they have to do is give you a little strip to pee on.
Hey, see, a stripe.
Yeah. All right. Hey, there's some stripes on this piece of paper where I wrote my good or not. So
See,
I
there you
guess I'm
go.
gonna be able to do that.
Then you wouldn't be able to stay in the lines and write well.
I don't write well anyways.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
all right. So good or not, the college football playoff.
I'm gonna go not with the way it's set up. Not. I'm gonna say I don't like the 4-team setup. I truly believe there should not. I think there should be a minimum of 6, if not 8.
I think it's
with
a minimum of 8.
a minimum of 8. Yeah, but the way it's set up now is designed for teams like UCF to never win ever, no matter how good they do, no matter what the accomplishments a team has and the schedule that they face, which they can't control what conference they're in. They just have to win the games in front of them, which is exactly what they did. And if they get blown out in the first round, fuck it. They get blown out, but you gave them a shot to compete, which they got robbed of, and so yeah, I'm going with not. I like the college playoff. But do it Division II style. Do it high school football style. You gotta there. You can play more than freaking 14 games in a season. I mean, if you go to the national championship, that's how many you're playing.
Well, to support your statement, every other level of college football has a what I would consider a full playoff system.
Right.
But now it does. I do have to add on. It doesn't surprise me that the person who's happy there's no college football game is going to go with no for more football in college. So
Yeah,
I mean,
uh-huh.
it's not surprising to me. I mean, I think we've painted your character pretty well in today's
You
Good or
just-
Not segment.
You just got me on the fact of I just don't like football. I hate football. What can I
Yeah,
say?
I've painted that picture.
Yeah. All right, Jake. Last one of Good or Not for the entire episode. Good or not? Drugs.
Huh.
Think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with this question. A lot of problems with this.
Are drugs good?
What are you considering? Are you just considering illegal drugs or just drugs as a whole?
No, drugs as an as an entity.
You put me in a predicament where I could get fired. We're gonna go with good overall. I mean, if we didn't have some
Okay.
form of drugs,
Okay.
it would be back in the medieval ages where everyone just died at the age of like 30.
Yes.
I mean, when I'm sick, I go get a prescription. I'm technically getting drugs. They're prescription
Yes.
drugs.
Okay.
That being said, there's a lot of bad drugs, like opioids, heroin, all that crap. I mean, so as with anything, there's definitely bad to it. But I mean, if you say drugs aren't good, then you just want everyone's life expectancy to be
Yes.
like 30 years. So I'm gonna
Yes.
go good.
All right, Jake, good. I'm glad you passed that test. But honestly, Jake, to be completely honest, there's no such thing as really a now there are hurtful drugs if you take too much of it. Honestly, with heroin, now this is getting on a different level, but
All right, he's
If-
about to really go down here. But then
Okay.
again, I mean, you like
hold on.
you like a crystal meth cooker
You
who
can't-
kills people. So
You don't get addicted to the drug itself, you get addicted to the high. So if you take it in moderation, it doesn't have to necessarily be a bad thing for you. Now, it is a highly addictive substance, but like nicotine with cigarettes, you're addicted to the nicotine. You're not addicted to, what it benefits you from. And, and that goes down a whole different like psychological path there, but that is you answered right. Good. You want medicine, cures cancer, all that shit. So anyway, Jake, that does it for Good or Not. Another successful, contentious round of Good or Not, I think,
That's a
between
big word
Jake
for
and
you.
I.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I thought about it all by myself.
Anytime you get more than like one or two syllables, I mean that's a big
Hey,
step for you.
it's a big time if I don't have to say fuck, shit, or ass or something, or balls. But anyway, Jake, let's move
I
on
was gonna say
to
scrotum, but that's too many.
Yeah. Jake, what about that UFC Khabib and McGregor fight?
Oh, I don't know if you actually got to like watch it live.
I didn't watch it live, but I've watched everything that you can watch. I mean, about it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I thought the whole UFC night was awesome. All the fights leading up to it, if you didn't watch them, I definitely suggest it. The fight right before Khabib and McGregor was the best fight of the night.
It's usually
but
those fights that are great. It's
Yeah,
the
I
fights
mean-
that the preliminary fights are
The
fantastic.
preliminary fights were awesome, and I'm going to talk about another one here in a minute because I have to. But the actual fight of Khabib and McGregor, I thought Khabib won. I mean, pretty convincingly.
It's pretty dominating.
Pretty impressive. I mean, but Khabib is undefeated, and yes, I'm going to keep saying it like that. But I mean, I would be for a rematch, oddly enough, even though McGregor kind of got handled. I swung back and forth with this. At first, I was like, no. But, McGregor adjusted to, like, Diaz when he got to fight him a second time, and that was a much better fight the second time. I think that McGregor, now that he's fought him in the ring, I mean, Khabib definitely is going to beat anyone right now. And so you would have to say the second most talented fighter in the UFC right now in that weight class has been McGregor. And so I don't think you're going to get a much better matchup than that. But I thought it was a good fight. I mean, it still went 4 rounds. McGregor hung in there. He maybe won himself one round and maybe half of another round. His biggest problem was he couldn't stay off the ground. But then, of course, the after-fight activities were
That's
what
the
stole the
storyline
show.
here. Yeah, that's the storyline here, and I think Khabib definitely. I think he was lost in the whole McGregor world. he found himself in that McGregor promotional fight as reality. He couldn't separate himself and separate the two worlds of fight and the shit talking prior or before the fight. And I think that's what a lot of, and it started off with Ali in boxing. That's half the fight. And honestly, that's almost more so the fight than anything else, is to get those viewers, to get people watching, to get people talking about it. And McGregor does, his best thing is promoting a fight. That's the best thing McGregor does. His fighting isn't necessary. I mean, it's great because he can win, but it's also like, his fighting, I don't think about, when I think McGregor, I don't think how good of a fighter he is. I think of how good of a shit talker he is and how well he can promote a fight. Khabib got lost in that, and it's kind of disappointing that he may get his title stripped because of his actions.
Yeah, I mean, and then his crew. I wasn't as appalled at what Khabib did as I was his crew jumping in
And trying to fight McGregor, yeah.
Yeah, and sucker punching, and that was kind of what bothered me more so than anything. But at the same time, if you're the UFC, you don't want guys jumping into the crowd like that. I mean, with violent intent. So
well, yeah, and these guys are trained professional fighters. Like, they could probably fucking kill you if they get you in the right grapple hold that they want to get you in.
Yeah, so I mean that was an unfortunate damper on a great night. And if you have not seen this interview, Tanner, I'm disappointed.
No, I've seen it.
The greatest interview of all time, and I can't wait till he goes on Joe Rogan's show to listen to, of Derek Lewis getting asked why he took his pants off and saying, "My balls was hot." And then
balls was hot.
That's an exact quote. And then
Quoted.
Getting asked about fighting him and saying that Trump called him and told him to knock this Russian motherfucker out. And he was basically this big black guy being pro-Trump on the mat, which is hilarious. And just saying how he's supposed to knock this Russian dude out and all this stuff. If you haven't seen that post-fight interview, please go watch it, because it is a national treasure, and it needs to be saved and shown in every America hype video ever.
Yeah, Jake, it's a pretty good one. That one might have to make it into the show. I might insert it into the show. But Jake, is I wanted to kind of move on from the UFC. Is LeBron a bad father? I don't know if you saw the interview. It's kind of sheesh. Eye emoji, fire emoji, at Dwayne Wade 13 or whatever the fuck his thing is.
Skull emoji.
And LeBron lets his 11 and 14-year-old kid drink wine with him and his wife.
Yeah, so can we call Child Protective Services on him?
That seems like an unfit household for a child.
Yeah, I mean, he sits here and acts like a role model, and I mean, he's promoting not only underage drinking, but like preteen drinking, essentially, with his 11-year-old. I mean,
I heard they serve wine at his school that he has. They serve wine at lunch.
Probably. He's probably got the finest vino in the land.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
No, sheesh. But, I mean, in all seriousness, it's not that big of a deal. My dad let me kind of get a sip here and there, whatever. But, LeBron's a bad father, and he should be reprimanded and probably get suspended for half the season.
Let's just go with kicked out of the league, so I don't have to hear about him anymore.
Sure, why not?
Or no. You know what? Forget that. Just cancel Space Jam 2, please.
Ooh, yes. Do not ruin actually, no. Space Jam is probably my favorite sports movie of all time. And that's just because childhood and the emotional attachment that I have to that. But it's also, I watch it now and it's still a great movie. Every time. I still laugh. I legitimately laugh at the jokes because it's actually just a really fucking funny movie.
The only way that movie would be good is if it's realistic and he joins the Monstars.
He joins the Monstars and they still lose the title to Golden State. The regular Golden State Warriors.
And then he goes back to the Tunes and wins one.
Yeah, wins one in an upset because Kyrie had to win it for him. Yes,
exactly. Or Bugs Bunny in that case will win it for him, make all the big shots, but he'll get all the credit.
There you go. So Jake, from one GOAT to the next, Drew Brees, a pretty astonishing accomplishment, having the all-time passing record. But I wanted to go down this road with you, and I was watching it on Good Morning America, Good Morning Football on NFL Network, and they were kind of going down the butterfly effect of Drew Brees' career and how the Chargers drafted him how then they drafted Phillip Rivers, and Drew Brees was having one of his best careers statistically while Phillip Rivers was the backup, and then Brees had gotten hurt. What if he never gets hurt? Do we ever get Phillip Rivers the quarterback, or is Phillip Rivers somewhere else? And if Drew Brees does get hurt and he signs with Miami like he was going to with Nick Saban there at Miami, is Nick Saban still in Miami, and does the Dolphins have the success that Drew Brees and the Saints have had in New Orleans, and does that prevent Alabama from being the powerhouse that they are if Saban's still in Miami? And does that also prevent the year after year after year New England kind of, debacle and the dynasty that the Patriots have? Or,
Jesus.
and it just kind of is a bizarre
the Earth
thing.
Flat is
Hey, but it's kind of a cool
No,
thing
it
to
is
kind of
a-
think about.
it's interesting.
It's
I
interesting
can't
to
go
see.
down all of that, but
No,
that's-
you can't. But and
would
then
take too long.
even if him going to New Orleans, if that had never happened, is Sean Payton still there, or is Sean Payton even in the league anymore? Are the Saints ever relevant? Are they still, they're probably definitely without a Super Bowl. I would give Drew Brees about 90% of that and Sean Payton of the other 10. But it was just a really interesting topic. But, obviously history has worked itself out, I think, in a very good way with Drew Brees and the way he's done it. For the city of New Orleans, the guy is basically a god there. They worship him more than they do Jesus Christ.
And he gets lost too much. And, it's kind of something I thought about the other night, or when he broke the record. He gets lost way too much when people talk about GOATs at quarterback. And
how many
all that
MVPs
stuff.
does he have? The regular season MVPs, is it 0?
I feel like he might have one, but it might be 0. But still, I don't look at that stat for when you talk about GOATs. But he is definitely forgotten about when it comes to the greatest of all time. He won a Super Bowl for a franchise that's done nothing without him.
Oh yeah, no, Jake, and people were talking about Peyton Manning, and him winning one with the Colts finally, and then him going to another team and winning one. People forget that Drew Brees, man, without him, the Saints. What were the Saints? The Saints were the equivalent to what the Cleveland Browns were. It was serious conversations between who has a worse overall franchise in their entire history, the Saints or the Browns. And once Drew Brees went there, they were automatically a Super Bowl contender. Immediately. That doesn't just happen with one player unless you were as great as Drew Brees. And who in the world has ever been famous with a birthmark on their face? Drew Brees can do it all.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I will say this. Who else could, leave a team and that team get a quarterback who's been as good as Phillip Rivers has, and the team be like, why'd we let go of this guy?
Yes. Yeah, you're exactly
Phillip Rivers
right.
has had a arguably Hall of Fame career. I know he doesn't have a Super Bowl, but that's a whole nother topic we could bring up in an off season of should Super Bowls factor into a Hall of Fame selection. And if you think it takes less merit into it, then Phillip Rivers is very arguably a Hall of Famer, and yet there's still people who are in that fan base that go, why did we ever let go of Drew Brees? That's how good Drew Brees is.
Yeah, imagine if we had Drew Brees. And then also another
they could
thing
be a
kind
Super
of
Bowl team this year.
Yeah, Jake, and another kind of butterfly effect thing. Without Drew Brees' success as a small quarterback, does Russell Wilson or Baker Mayfield ever get a shot in the NFL with their size?
Ooh, yeah. That's a
the comparisons
I
that
definitely think
Russell Wilson
Mayfield does, just because he won the Heisman and his arm talent was undeniable on film. But a guy like Russell Wilson, who maybe didn't have all the accolades coming out of college, he definitely would not have been viewed as a possible even third round pick or wherever he got selected.
No, he may have not have been drafted.
Russell Wilson may not get a chance at all, or have to walk his way onto a team and go through the undrafted free agency, because I don't think a guy like him would get a chance. I think Mayfield would. I don't know about first overall pick, but I definitely he's probably the one exception. But as far as short quarterbacks go overall, that's a pretty lame excuse now if you say a guy's too short.
Yeah, nobody
it's
cares
just-
about that anymore.
Yeah, it's a dumb thing to say at this point because it's been proven wrong, and the idea of your quarterback has to be tall is an old way of thinking, just like the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff does.
Yeah, and speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, let's move right to that.
You took it.
I was at the game, and I was in Houston. I was the third row from the top of the nosebleeds, and I had a great time. And NRG's, it's okay. I don't like their little
Yeah.
walls thing that
I'm
they
not,
have.
I'm not impressed with that stadium.
Yeah,
I've been
it's
there.
it's okay. Houston sucks. The city of Houston is terrible. I fucking hate Houston. It literally smells like diarrhea and shit and throw up all over the place. Like anywhere we went in Houston,
Yep.
it smelled the same. But that doesn't describe nearly how bad the Cowboys are. They are worse than shit, diarrhea, and throw up combined. The Cowboys suck so bad. And honestly, we were talking to Texans fans, some Cowboy fans and Texans fans. We kind of all got together and we were just kind of talking after the game, walking to our cars and whatnot. And we are like, we just watched two really bad teams just play against each other. Even Texans fans were like, we just watched two really bad teams just play, and they were both equally so shitty that it went into overtime and it ended up being like a good game and what should be a good game. But it just was two bad teams playing against each other.
Or how about this? And this is my opinion. I thought it was a battle of which coaching staff could do a worse job. And,
and get
impressively, Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan won that battle. It's about the only thing they win. I am now officially. I want the Cowboys to lose every single game the rest of the season because I want there to be no doubt about Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan being fired. Because my thing is, even if the Cowboys, went 10-6 or something this year, made the playoffs, they're not going to win anything in the playoffs. They're never going to win anything in the playoffs with this coaching staff. And not only that, the big discussion around Dallas right now is, do they need to be looking at a quarterback, eventually? Are you going to give Dak another year? I mean, here's my thing. If you're going to keep Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan, then no, Dak's not your guy. He can't run that offense. He's not that type of quarterback. But then again, neither are the majority of the quarterbacks in the NFL, because you basically got to go get Troy Aikman again, because that's the type of offense they're running. They're running an old offense, and not only that, Jason Garrett's a pussy. 4th and 1 on the opponent's 41-yard line. We're going to play the field position game. Coach to win, not just to compete. If I hear him say we're going to compete one more time, I'm going to find that ginger and punch him repeatedly because it's so stupid.
Jake.
You play in the National Football League to compete. You play to fucking win. He's a pussy, dude. When he punted it on 4th and 1, I was like, this game's over. You don't punt it.
He had a good excuse, Jake. He had a good excuse. It was a long one.
His pussy was wet?
It was a long one, okay? It was a very long 1 yard
I
to
forgot
gain.
he was saying, he wouldn't know anything about a long one. He's displayed that time in and time out.
Dude, okay, so we were talking. I was talking to a Cowboy fan that was sitting in front of me. Oh, by the way, just so everybody knows, it was about 60-40 in favor of Cowboy fans ratio-wise there in Houston.
Oh, you could tell on TV.
But
No one cares about the Texans.
No, the Texans suck ass too. And so we were the Cowboy fan was sitting in front of me, and Garrett, I was like, Garrett's got to show some balls here. And the guy in front of me goes, he ain't got no balls. He's got no balls. I was like, dude, he ain't even got a pussy. And he was like, they started laughing. I was like, he's just a Ken Barbie doll. He just has nothing. He doesn't even have a pussy. He doesn't have balls. He's just of skin. He's just skin in between his legs that doesn't do shit. It has no purpose or meaning in life. He can't
I'm
contribute.
sure that's a gender in 2018 too.
Hey, it probably is. And he can't contribute to life, nor give it, or do anything because he just sucks. He's a meaningless, lifeless, soulless ginger, and he should probably just be out of the NFL for the love of God. And Jake, I'm kind of with you. Just lose out. At least get a top draft pick and get a new coach.
And here's my thing. We need a new coach, and we need especially a new offensive coordinator. I arguably hate Scott Linehan more than I do Garrett because I think their scheme is terrible. I mean, for them to not play to Dak's strengths is just a joke. I mean, look at what Jared Goff with Jeff Fisher. I mean, Jared Goff would still look the same as he did with Jeff Fisher if he was on this offensive scheme, the Scott Linehan, Jason Garrett scheme. He would still look like a average to bad quarterback.
Yes.
And I'm not saying Dak is ever going to be this great all-time great quarterback, but I definitely think he'd be a guy who you can have as your quarterback and not have to, because, all these fans want to go quarterback hunting. That's not a fun thing to fall into, and I don't want to fall into that if they don't have to. But unfortunately, we're never going to know if Dak's the guy if we continue with this scheme. The only way to know if Dak is the guy is to actually adopt to how the NFL is played now, and especially how it should be played with a guy like Dak. They should be running a Seattle or Rams-like offense or a Bears-like offense or even to an extent a Chiefs-like offense. That's the type of offense they should be running. And notice how all those teams I named, even though the Bears are inconsistent on offense, I think it's clear they have a good scheme. They just don't have quite as much talent, and a lot of it's young.
Well, Seattle's offense isn't very great either.
No, but again, their offensive line is, one of the worst in the NFL.
Yeah.
So
and Jake
I just
also,
think we're never going to know if Dak's the guy until
No.
you actually get a good scheme.
Yeah, and I completely
Ezekiel
agree
Elliott
with you.
might die on the field if we continue doing this.
Yes, and he probably will, and might already be dead. I don't know. But maybe that's why they didn't go for it on 4th and 1. Zeke actually died, and it just hasn't come out yet.
Garrett was just soaking through his pants.
You're okay, but the sad thing is that week completely didn't matter. That's the sad thing, is that this week
First place, baby!
was a complete cancellation of the entire NFC East. It didn't matter. Redskins lost, Eagles lost, Giants lost, Cowboys lost. This game, this whole week was a wash and didn't have any implications on what our division is except for a wild card, which no one out of this division is getting a wild card anyway, so it doesn't really fucking matter. But that's what sucks, is that you had said this in about 2 podcasts before this one. I think on episode 5, you said as long as they have hope, you still kind of have to, you still have to kind of be on the wagon. You still have to support this Cowboy team. You still have to kind of...
fuck that. Forget I said that.
But you did, and it kind of sucks because they do give you hope. It sucks because I'm not going into this week thinking I think Cowboys are going to put up maybe 6 points against the Jaguars. Maybe 6 points.
Really? I have the final at 6-4 Jaguars. 3 safeties to 2.
No, Dallas won't get 2 safeties. Our defense isn't that good. Our defense won't.
Yeah,
dude,
but
they couldn't get pressure on
Jacksonville
Deshaun
offense
Watson.
is that bad, and they don't have Fournette.
Dude, they could not get pressure on Watson. Watson had a field day. He literally could just do whatever. There was times where he just sat there and kind of got on dry. He took his pants off because his balls was hot, and then he put them back on because his balls was cold. That's literally how much time he had in the fucking pocket. Dude, there was no pressure. Even DeMarcus Lawrence had a bad game. This team has not operated on a consistent week-to-week basis, and we mentioned that last week.
Other than our linebackers. Linebackers have been... And I don't think the secondary played that bad. I just think DeAndre Hopkins is a beast, and their receiving core... the Cowboys' receiving core is a whole nother problem.
Oh, my God. They're bad, too.
All
Cole Beasley's
first
one...
passes.
Yes. I was just about to mention that. And Cole Beasley had 1 catch. It was in overtime.
Yep, and it was all for nothing because we punted it on 4th and 1 on the Houston 41-yard line because it was a long 1 yard, and I just think with the way our defense had been playing and the fact that we could play field position and compete, we only lost by 3. I thought our guys fought very hard, and I'm just proud of the way we competed and fought. And the sad thing is, that's really what this fucking guy says in the press conferences.
That's actually like verbatim. That was basically.
It's literally
quote.
what he says every week, even after they win. He's like, I'm just proud of the way, because they never win a game easily because they're always just competing. And I have to give Garrett credit. His message has been received by the players. They just compete. They don't dominate. They don't go out and play to win. They just compete.
Yeah. And Jake, I want to maybe end it on this. You can say something if you want to say something after I say it. But
point.
What was the reason you signed Brett Maher? Because he can kick a 57-yard field goal?
Oh, yes. That is another good point. They should have. And he nailed one from that range.
If you don't even attempt a field goal, look, at the worst case scenario, I thought it was a field goal opportunity. That was the worst case. I thought the worst thing we could have done in that situation was kick a field goal and have Brett Maher either make it or miss it. You cut your all-time.
You underestimate Jason Garrett.
Oh, I know. And you cut your all-time points leader in Dan Bailey, third most accurate kicker in NFL history. Speaking, he missed 2 field goals last week.
Yeah, I was about to say
one
that's
game.
turned out to look like a pretty good move on their part.
But however,
I like our front office. I will make that clear.
But you signed Brett Maher because in a preseason game, I think against the Texans,
yes,
he makes
in Houston, in the very same fucking stadium.
He fucking makes a 57-yard field goal. And at the least scenario, the worst case scenario, you kick a field goal in that situation, you go up by 3, and then you trust your fucking defense. Not after you do nothing and you give it to them on the 20-yard line and let DeAndre Hopkins put your entire defense in a spin cycle and just press B over and over and over again and get him to the fucking 10-yard line and kick that game-winning field goal then. I could not believe that play call.
The biggest sign of weakness, you punted the ball away. You drafted a running back 4th overall, and you don't go in on 4th and 1. Literally, just call read option on that play, and I promise you get a first down. I mean,
it's so simple, and I know now what Marshawn Lynch feels like. I can officially know exactly what he felt like facing against the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl with Seattle. I know exactly what Marshawn Lynch feels like now.
And this is saying a lot. This is my saddest moment as a Cowboy fan because I genuinely want them to do bad this year because I think it's better for the long-term success of this team. Because as long as they have Jason Garrett, as long as they have Scott Linehan, they are never going to do anything in the playoffs because it's a bad system, it's an outdated offense, and it's just bad coaching. It's a bad head coach. They get rid of an offensive line coach who has gone to Cincinnati and completely turned around the Cincinnati offensive line. Yeah, I sound like Bill fucking Belichick, except for I'm not cheating. And he went to Cincinnati, and all they've done is rave about their new offensive line coach and how much better their offensive line has been. And now our offensive line has kind of dropped off, especially compared to where they've been when they've been healthy. And they're not healthy this year. Travis Frederick's a huge miss, and that'd be a whole nother subject. But I just don't get the move. A lot of the things they've done. I mean, I would fire Garrett now. I would fire Linehan now. I would rather the offense have to sit there and try to learn it. I literally said at halftime of that game, I was like, if you brought in Sean McVay or Nagy from the Bears right now and literally taught the team 5 plays, just 5 plays at halftime, they would score more points in that second half than they probably have on the road the entire season.
You pick their 5 favorite plays that they run for the Rams and the Bears.
No,
and
pick their 5 least favorite. I don't give a fuck.
All right, Jake, that's going to do it for episode 7 of the Fanboys. I'm Tanner Carlson. He's Jake Jimerson. Thank you for listening. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit share. Do what you got to do. We are Fanboys. And fire Jason Garrett. We are the Fanboys. We are fans talking as fans. For you, the fans, thank you and good night.